Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, Secretary General of the United Nations, Heads of Delegation, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor and privilege to address you on behalf of President Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, Head of State, during this session, to convey the voice of the dignified, honest people of Burkina Faso. I would therefore like to convey fraternal greetings to you, to all citizens of the world committed to peace and freedom. Madam President, on behalf of Burkina Faso, I would like warmly to congratulate you upon your election to the presidency of this, the 80th session. Your election bears witness to the trust of the international community in your leadership, your ability to listen to other views, and to dialogue. In Burkina Faso, you will find a sincere, constructive, and committed partner. I would also like to express my gratitude to your predecessor, Mr. Philemon Yang. My gratitude for the high quality and rigor of the work he undertook during the previous session. Madam President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Burkina Faso fully aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the Alliance of Sahel States by the Republic of Mali. Together with Niger as well, we belong to a community of aspirations in a forum of renaissance and breaking with the past. Secretary General, Burkina Faso would like to pay tribute to the work of the UN system and its partners in this common quest for stability and prosperity. The present meeting, which is being held 80 years after the adoption of the United Nations Charter, is a suitable opportunity for us to take stock candidly of what our organization has achieved. And that is what the topic for this meeting suggests that we do. Better together, 80 years and more for peace, development, and human rights. This is fully relevant in light of our mutual commitment to bring about a world that is more just and to build more effective multilateralism. It is therefore part of this approach that should guide every nation, every sub-regional, regional, and international group. This is the oak anniversary after 80 years that should really lead for us to carry out an introspective assessment of what we have achieved. Rather than being a cause for celebration, this anniversary is in fact akin to looking at an embarrassing fiasco, a collective disappointment, and a structural failure. Because we have to be honest with ourselves, we should humbly recognize that even though globally there have been some achievements, there is rather a negative backdrop as a result of 8 decades of optimism that have been sorely put to the test, 8 decades of disappointment, 8 decades of shattered dreams, 8 decades of failure to meet the moment, in a nutshell. That is unfortunately the bleak picture of a UN that many of our forefathers from 1945, if they were still alive, would have struggled to accept. It is therefore difficult to celebrate given such a mixed backdrop to this anniversary. How can we understand the fact that Africa, the cradle of humanity, and where there are so many conflicts, and which represents more than 1 billion human beings, remains excluded from the Security Council's decision-making bodies? How can we accept the fact that peacekeeping missions, financed to the tunes of billions of dollars, are leaving our countries in the lurch and are leaving behind frustration and suffering rather than tangible results. The causes of this collective failure are well known to all, notably the member states themselves, who, after 8 decades, have, within this General Assembly, devoted their energies to defend noble causes and to propose realistic reforms without being successful in this quest. What can we do if the decisions of the General Assembly, which are not binding, are simply making it irredeemably inaudible and ineffective? Could we expect the Security Council to be more successful when it is tarnished by politicization, and when it is powerless as a result of its inconsistencies and ineffective because of its permanent divisions? What is even worse is that this Council, whose role today is misused, the Council is in fact a troublemaker as a result of the tacit, underhand and sometimes active complicity of some of its permanent members, who are themselves major actors and financiers of the crises of our time. That is what the Security Council has become. It has become a pernicious body, which, as a result of the predatory behavior of some of its permanent members, they can decide which country will be on the Council's agenda, in which other country peacekeeping operations can be sent, as if to better legitimize their role. We are therefore powerless in the face of the failure of initiatives which are nevertheless good ideas as a result of the rivalries between states and the unresolved crises that are so numerous, the most emblematic of which is the conflict between Israel and Palestine, which has lasted too long. The sinful inaction of the international community in the face of a lack of trust and the authority of states which have been undermined by terrorists. It is time for an awakening and for bold reforms, without which the Security Council will remain an anachronistic institution and will not be able to meet the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that is changing rapidly as a result of rapid digital change and the persistence of geopolitical tensions, it is critical that we reconsider our economic development strategies. International trade can no longer be conceived through rigid schemas and imbalanced models that have been imposed upon us. Rather, it should be focused on strengthening economic autonomy, local use of resources, and promoting genuine social justice. It has been recognized today that lasting prosperity involves proactive industrialization policies, maximizing the value of raw materials and creating decent jobs, notably for young people. That is why we urgently need to break with the cycle of dependence on the export of raw materials. This is a model that increases our vulnerability and is a permanent brake on our emergence. In Burkina Faso, presidential initiatives bear witness to this determination to build a productive, inclusive, and resilient economy which can bring new horizons for our citizens. That is why my country reaffirms its commitment to building a fairer multilateral trade system based on international solidarity and making the most of scientific progress, technological advancement and innovation, which are genuine levers for shared, lasting development. Madam President, like other nations in the Sahel, my country is going through one of the most testing times in its history. For almost a decade now, Burkina Faso has been attacked by terrorists supported by dark forces. These groups are coveting our resources. They are trying to shatter our sovereignty and impose the law of chaos. But rather than resigning ourselves to this fate, we have chosen to stand up with dignity and resistance under the leadership of our President, Captain IBRAHIM TRAORE. We decided to take our destiny in our own hands by mobilizing our defense and security forces supported by volunteers for defending the fatherland, who are genuine heroes, by building up the Patriotic Support Fund, which is fueled by our citizens' voluntary contributions and contributions from our diaspora and friends of our country throughout the world. Since 2023, this fund has collected more than 413 billion CFA francs, which is startling proof of the patriotic spirit and unity of our people. By carrying out historic reforms to achieve food sovereignty, to restore our lands, and to relaunch our agricultural production, and to reduce our dependence on imports. These efforts that our determined people have undertaken are now bearing fruit. More than 72% of our territory has been recovered. Thousands of internally displaced people are going back home. Schools are reopening and social services are now resuming. Burkina Faso is thus showing that a united people can overcome even the toughest challenges. Burkina Faso hereby wishes to reaffirm fully responsibly that its priorities are non-negotiable and that its choices must be respected more than ever before.